All right. Hello, everybody. We are live. So today, in the wake of the Cardinal Zen v. Michael Lofton situation, I thought I would bring up a very interesting point that I think too many people, if they thought about it for like 5 seconds, they'd probably recognize it, but something that has been missing in this whole discussion. Now, some people are getting into the nuances of what Cardinal Zen said in light of Michael Lofton. Others have looked at what Michael Lofton has like did to lead to Cardinal Zen responding, and this is like really really important because you need to see both sides as to like how it came to be, but besides that, there's a bigger issue at play here, and that has to come with what's going on with a cardinal coming out and singling a podcaster, a YouTuber out that doesn't happen, or at least it doesn't happen that often. So why is that? And I think that's an important question, because ultimately when when we're talking about what's going on with the faith, a lot of people are getting it on YouTube. There's a lot of people who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers that bring in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. And let me just, it's bothering me. All right. Why is it? Yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. If you're watching this, my setup's a little off. But anyways, there's podcasters, YouTubers that have hundreds of thousands of views, if not millions, and they lead people astray. They promote a variety of things, and it's not even like a lot of people will probably be like, all right, Taylor Marshall, Matt Fradd, like they have a lot. Like that's true. Like they do have a lot, but there's also others that have a lot, and they do have to be brought back into check, right? Like it's unreasonable to say, oh well, it's on the internet, they can say whatever they want, it's completely fine, they have a theology degree or something like that. And so like, which is what I think Lofton has. I think Lofton has a theology degree. And so just because they have a theology degree doesn't mean everything they say is good, right? Like it doesn't mean that it's appropriate. And I'm only bringing this up because the Lofton Cardinal Zen thing is so like right there. But it's akin to politicians as well. So this idea of, I'm not going to follow my bishop, I'm going to listen to Taylor Marshall. I'm not going to follow my bishop, I'm going to listen to Father James Martin. I'm not going to follow my bishop, I'm going to listen to fill in the blank. And that's a problem, because you should be going to your bishop. You should be going to your spiritual father who's supposed to be taking care of you. And don't get me wrong, I totally get the idea that like there are bishops that don't seem to be taking their job seriously. That is a very real thing. However, that being said, like if we're expecting the bishops to take their job seriously, we should expect them to correct podcasters, YouTubers, people who are selling the faith in a way that is not actually what the faith teaches, or in a way that is over encumbered. So like, for example, a little too, like if you don't believe everything I believe, you're wrong, which is a criticism that Michael Lofton typically has, where he's like, you're either with me and my understanding of the Pope, or you're not with me. Again, that's a major criticism other people have that I've seen. That is not something that I would say I've seen, because frankly, once he blocked me for trying to help him and Edward Fazer that one time when they got into a spat, I was like, okay, well, I'm just not going to watch your stuff. So that's a little background on me. But it's not a thing of like, well, I want to zing Michael Lofton. This is like for everybody. This is like when you look at my stuff, when I criticize a bishop, okay, or when I do something, when I'm talking about theology and I'm criticizing a bishop, I am very, very, very careful about what I say. Why? Because me like giving my opinion on YouTube is not the formal or appropriate way to criticize a bishop in a way that would lead to him being declared a heretic. So that's why, like, for example, when that one woman who is dressing up as a monk came out in a public way and the diocese supported her, what I did and what I strained was, hey, like the Pope the Vatican just came out with something 2 months ago about this the nature of what this is what this is doing, or how the diocese is doing this. This is a very imprudent thing by the bishop to do. And I emphasized, I'm not saying he's a heretic. I'm not saying he shouldn't. I certainly didn't say we should question his validity as a bishop. But like, there's a respect to the position. I did not say anything that would go so far as to suggest that the bishop is not able to perform his office, because that is not my place. And it's not the place of Lofton to do something similar, where he did say, because I did see this clip, questioning, I think it was on Avoiding Babylon, questioning the cardinal having his hat, being a bishop, if he doesn't understand the way that Lofton had presented. And that is a very real problem, because at that point, you're a layperson challenging someone who is the successor to the apostles. Okay. Again, we know plenty of bishops that are not great. Okay. They do not fill the shoes of which they've been given. However, to publicly come out and specify by name someone who does that is a real problem. And especially one that's been tortured for the faith. So like, that is like, he's kind of put his money where Cardinal Zen's kind of put his money where his mouth is. But like, again, I'm using this as a catalyst to explain how ridiculous it is that someone like me in front of a camera, all right, I don't have a lot of people that follow me compared to Lofton, compared to Matt Fradd or Taylor Marshall. Like, those guys are way higher than I am. But just because they have more people does not mean that their opinion makes more sense, or that how they carry themselves is appropriate. And so when they get corrected, even in a way that is not necessarily the most charitable, like what Cardinal Zen did, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's wrong. Because two things can be right at the same time, right? Michael Lofton overstepped his bounds, and Cardinal Zen could have been more charitable, but the transaction of the dispute is still valid. And so this is, again, very similar to politicians. Okay, when politicians get a following and they get support, and they use Catholicism as their basis for like selling themselves in a very similar way that Lofton, Taylor Marshall, Matt Fradd do. It's not exactly the same, but it's in a similar way. They have an authority, or they give a perception of authority, right? And so with that perception of authority comes responsibility. But like, at the same time, like, it's not like, it's authority of influence. It's not true authority of what's been handed down in our tradition. So that would be for the bishops, for the ordained. But for example, like, how many years of Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden being Catholics in good standing while promoting abortion and every other seemingly wrong, morally objectionable thing, that it undermined the faith, because you'd have people like, maybe your parents or your cousins that would point to them and be like, well, they support that thing and they're Catholics in good standing. Which may or may not lead to the excommunication debate, because when you don't publicly excommunicate someone, you don't get what is it? People don't know about it, because there's two aspects to the excommunication. It's to, one, help the person, and to two, let everyone know why that person's getting excommunicated. Like, it's kind of a big deal. Because you want to know, okay, Arian, he's going to get excommunicated. Why? Because he's promoting a false understanding of Jesus. Kind of a big deal. But Yeah, or public Catholics. So like another example would be like actors. So actors that come out and they're like, I'm a Catholic, and I'm a Catholic in good standing. I go to daily mass every day, but wait, watch as I'm in a movie with a sex scene that is horrendously inappropriate. So like the way the camera is in here, like I always fluctuate, and so I'm sorry. I know I go between them too. So Steve, I think Zen's response was funny, and people who think it's me need to chill out. Yeah, he's 92 years old. Like he's kind of setting into like, he's an old man. He doesn't care. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a level of like, he doesn't care. Like his response is to the point. It's concise and it makes sense. And so, but like, again, this understanding of we really need to, I probably should have said bishops versus podcasters instead of cardinals versus podcasters, because it's this understanding of the right authority is underneath the bishop. And we need to stop letting those who have a lot of influence supplant them, because at that point you're treating them as the bishop, and at that point you're following a different religion, right? Like you're like if you trust Taylor Marshall over the teaching authority of the bishops, that's a problem. Like that's a very real problem. I'm only using him because I think he has almost like 1 million subscribers. So like, I mean, he's not small, obviously, but like it's this understanding of the perception matters, and I think bishops need to take stock of that, which is why I will be let me see, add stage. All right, here we go. So let's see. This is I just looked at Lofton, just get a whole bunch of things. I thought this was funny. So let's see. I'm gonna go to my profile. Some people. All right. So later today I will be with Uncharted Catholic Man, and we're gonna be talking about the TLM crackdown. We're gonna be discussing potential reasons as to why it came about when it did. And it's obviously really important. You'd want to understand the variables that led to such a restrictive policy. And we're going to have a discussion about it, because some people play down certain aspects and some people play up certain aspects. And I think just having a discussion about it is going to be better than simply asserting things, like actually have an argument about it. If it goes to that level. I don't think we will. I think we'll just have a nice discussion. But it is something where if you can, let's see, I don't typically do 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. It says 8:30 Central. So add an hour, 9:30 Eastern time. That's when it's going to be going on, and I'll be streaming it from mine. It's going to be hosted on his. So if you got time, come and watch us. But it's going to be somewhat related, because this idea that the internet is some distant place in relation to the faith is not very prudent, because there's a lot of things that happen on the internet, like on Twitter, like in other places on YouTube, where the faith is talked about in a substantial way and people get moved by it. And they get moved by it in a variety of ways, either towards the faith or away from the faith. And it's within the realm of the bishops to criticize that. And so, and it is their responsibility to make sure that those that are within their space that they're responsible for. Like I had, before I really started getting up there in my subscribe count's only like 1,800, which I appreciate everybody who's subscribed. So like, I don't want to pretend that 1,800 isn't a lot. It absolutely is. And I appreciate everyone who's following me. It means a lot to me that you're willing to listen to me talk, and give my opinion on such things. But greetings. But my archdiocese knows who I am. Like I've let them know, like, hey, I am Modern Papist. This is my name. I do a YouTube thing, just letting you know that I do this, because that's really important, right? Like, it's really important that if you're going to put yourself out there in this way, that your ordinary knows you, or at least knows that you're doing this, because that's like, it's irresponsible to not do that. Like, if you are talking about the faith in a substantial way, it's irresponsible to not let the person who's supposed to be overseeing you do that. It's like, because he's your spiritual father, it would be similar to letting your kid use the internet and you not knowing about it, which is like a big deal now, right? Like, with prawn and everything, like, it's a huge problem to just let your kid just do whatever. And so that your kid may have influences done on him or her, and that they'll, put influences out there, and they'll start recording things that put you at risk. And so when I say, like, I'm from the Archdiocese of Detroit, I have no shame in saying I'm from the Archdiocese of Detroit, because the Archdiocese knows that I'm doing this. I've let them know that. I've let them know that. No, I've let them know that. Oh my gosh, I'm just going over my words. Sorry. But it's but like, and one of the reasons why I thought about it from this angle was because I used to run, I was a politician. I did run for office, and being a faithful Catholic was really important for me. But at the same time, I wasn't trying to push that as the center thing, right? Like, I don't like the idea of just throwing my faith out there and being like, like, give me votes, give me money because I'm Catholic. So this is different because I'm actually talking about my faith. I'm not simply running as a politician. But I'm no longer a politician, but it is something where it's it gives me that understanding and perspective, looking at Lofton, Matt Fradd, and Taylor Marshall, because I mean, essentially they are politicians online in this weird way, where people vote with their viewing sessions, right? And some of them give them money, as Cardinal Zen pointed out. So it's it is something to be wary of. And when you get into this space, if you ever choose to get into this space, I suggest that you do what I did, because you don't want to be you want to be faithful to your spiritual father. And especially if you're not a theologian like me, I'm not a theologian. You just like I'm just pointing out things. I'm a trained statistician, and a lot of things are about understanding variables and how they interconnect, and how they lead to certain outcomes. I let my spiritual father know that, because I'm trying to promote the faith in my way, but at the same time, I don't want to overstep my bounds. And if I do overstep my bounds, I expect him to correct me. So, because that's, I'm not like his biggest. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I think that I'm like, I'm thinking highly of myself. It's about being responsible, because I am going out into the public and I'm saying things. And I think we need to be careful with our tongues, right? Because like we'll be judged on every idle word that we say, and especially even more so when you go out into the public and outside of the purview of just your friends and family, but the internet, where you could potentially have thousands, millions of people watch you. Those idle words are stacking up, and for every idle word said to other people, it just multiplies. And so that's just something to be mindful of. So I've ignored chat long enough. Let me see if how chat's going. Bro, you're right, but it's kind of intimidating. Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, there's a temptation once you hit the threshold of being a professional Catholic to just keep saying stuff that will get you views too. Right, and that's a criticism that Lofton has. People will say that, where he's just putting out videos because it's getting him money. That's his main source of income. And like, there's always that temptation. And I think you have someone like Matt Fradd who does that, but he kind of started in the realm of being a theologian. Like he worked from, I think, Augustine Institute. Like we have CDs of him like doing lectures from Augustine. Like it makes sense that he transitioned into YouTube in the way he did, and that he's like, he seems to be much more aware of that, where he's not like just throwing out crap, but he wants to throw out quality. And so that's something else too, because you have a combination of people. You have people who are a combination of sorts, where they have a whole bunch of ideas. They have a whole bunch of influences, and they're just either putting out a lot of material that is not worth a lot, and then you have others that are like, all right, I'm going to think about what I'm saying. Like Brian Holdsworth, I think, does a video every like month, and he makes like every month or 2 weeks, and he makes sure that it looks really good. And that's part of his profession, right? Like that's part of what he does for a living. So this is just an add-on to what he does. Very similar to me. Like I don't like, clearly I don't have it look as good as him. I literally have like a flag or a drape. I think that a drape in the back, whatever. I have a thing in the background. I don't have the setup or the expertise to do what Brian does. So let's see. Okay. So all right. I think I'm gonna get going though, because I've got work to get back to. But I just thought I'd add. Just thought I'd give my opinion on this and relate it to, I think, something that a lot of us may be missing in the dynamic of a very based cardinal criticizing someone who a lot of people think are grifting. So I just wanted to do the silver lining, because it isn't necessarily, if you think Lofton grifts, that's not, I don't think that's the important part here. I don't think it's the slams on Lofton. I think it's the fact that a bishop is acting in his role the way he should, even if it's an imperfect way or how we would expect him to be. So thank you everyone for taking time to watch me during lunch hour, and I'll put a better thumbnail up, because I mean, not to say it's a bad thumbnail. I think the thumbnail is just my banner, and my banner is the tabernacle at my parish. So I'll put up a more relevant one. But thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.